indeed delighted to be back in KSA. I was last here in 2006, a very small part in the development of our industrial strategy, a very exciting and interesting piece of work, and it's fantastic to see it taking forward now with the transformation program. I really want to continue the discussion that was started before tea break about the role of science technology parks, business parks, which was begun by Aaron Pradhan, because I think this is an interesting example of both public and private cooperation, and also gets to the heart of what I hope will be the implementation aspects, the issues of how do we actually create new companies and new jobs. My own background I've spent some 30 years involved in science park developments, both in the UK and increasingly in different parts of the world, in totally different economic situations, and how important it is to recognise that there is no single model for either a science park or a business incubator. You have to tailor it to the country's needs and requirements at a given point in time. I think it's important to start with, well, what are science parks about? What are they trying to do? And put very simply, to create a framework, to create a facility where technology-based firms in strategic sectors can grow, develop and grow, creating quality jobs and high GVA. And that will be achieved essentially through three routes. Through startups, which you're familiar with, through diversification of indigenous firms, and most importantly, in many countries, the attraction of foreign-based companies to relocate, to bring their innovative activities to the country. Essentially what a science park and a business incubator offers is to create a cluster of technology-based firms in a single high-profile location. And it achieves this by creating a commercial environment as opposed to an academic environment, where those businesses are encouraged to develop and expand, have access to a range of services to facilitate their growth. It is not, and I emphasize this, though real estate is important, it is more than just a piece of real estate. Crucially, it's creating the linkages that we've talked about this morning so much. This is the operation where these linkages can be created for real by people in the park for the companies both on the park and companies beyond. Looking at the key drivers for success of science parks, one can really look to four components. Most importantly, it's the people. It's the companies on the park themselves. They are the people that create the environment to attract other companies. It's the science park board, its advisory board, and it's its staff. How can the staff facilitate this activity to create linkages between companies? It's the place where an environment can be created where businesses can set up and grow. That's the real estate bit, but it's more than that. It's where the partnership can exist, partnership both with the university, with government agencies, with access to markets and access to funding. And those two components become absolutely crucial if one's considering starting up and expanding a business. So what are the critical success factors for science parks and incubators? Crucially, it needs to be grounded in a decent business plan, like any good business, with clearly identified output targets. Yes, the property component has got to be in place and the funding well developed. But more importantly, there are added value services which will be relevant to the occupants, both technological, business and testing services. That the park is about mechanisms to identify new technologies, new business opportunities, to create the conditions in which those people, entrepreneurs, will come to the park and want to get those businesses off the ground. Crucially, effective marketing communications, and it was picked up earlier, to celebrate the success and role of the park as a high-profile position to attract more entrepreneurs and more technology-based businesses, supported by a team of active and committed staff who really got passion for innovation. They're not just there to manage the park, which is stable ownership and, crucially, a framework for performance monitoring. Now, I just want to pick up this last point. I had hoped to be able to present, as the last speaker did, what LinkedIn has done for Saudi and to give a profile on your side of the staffing. I'd hoped to be able to present to you now the position of the science parks and business incubators here in KSA. Regrettably, it's proved very difficult. We did put out a survey to the incubators. We got a relatively poor response, and one or two parks said, no, it's not your business. Well, frankly, it is your business. It's all of our business to know how well these parks are doing, because that's how we celebrate our success. We've got to be transparent about our success, about the number of companies we get in, how those companies are growing, how they're developing their exports, how they're getting funding for innovation, how they're raising finance, and the process of incubation. These are the targets we need to know at a national level if we're really to understand the barriers to development. So predicting what then are some of the key challenges, one of the most critical factors, I think, to come out from what I've seen...
1 minute, please.
1 minute. Is to get a critical mass of tenants in the early development of science parks. Because until you've got a critical mass of tenants, you can't get this interactivity. But you can't get the interactivity without the facilities. So it's a chicken and egg. You've got what comes first. And so the development of the attraction of firms to that park, initially through incubators, but also connecting with the investment agency, becomes quite crucial. So the suggestion I've got for working to the future is to actually set up a working group urgently to bring the science parks and incubators together to develop and understand the barriers to development. The crucial question is, who's going to coordinate that? Should it be CACS, the organization, or should it be some other body? And this issue of coordination between, on the one hand, the science parks and incubators, and on the other hand, the commercialization activities in universities and all the other bodies that are purporting to support innovation, becomes absolutely crucial for this. Second suggestion is the establishment, as we've done in other countries, of science parks and business incubator association, which bring the science parks together to talk with one voice so that we can record and relate our experience and expertise and our performance to policymakers. And out from this may be a series of studies which will identify some of the barriers to further development of these science parks. And that might lead to the development of study tours, of the association itself, and specific studies to unlock these barriers to development. Because if we don't understand the barriers to development, we're not going to get the utilization of these science parks and incubators that you already have to make them an effective part of the technology innovation ecosystem. Thank you very much.